The fluorescent lights of the supermarket hummed overhead as Sarah clutched her son's hand tighter, willing herself not to cry. The checkout line stretched endlessly before her, each beep of the scanner amplifying her growing panic. She'd done the math 3 times in her head, counted every dollar in her worn wallet, but the numbers wouldn't change. She was $7 short, $7 that stood between her and feeding her child for the week. "Mommy, can we get ice cream?" Tommy's voice pierced through her anxiety, small and hopeful, his green eyes fixed on the freezer display nearby. "The other kids at school always bring ice cream in their lunches." Sarah's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. How do you explain poverty to a 6-year-old? How do you tell your child that while other families casually toss treats into their carts, you're counting pennies to afford bread and milk? "Not today, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice cracking despite her best efforts to sound cheerful. "Maybe next time." She didn't see the man standing 3 people behind her, but he saw everything. Marcus Wellington had built an empire from nothing, transforming a small tech startup into a billion-dollar corporation. He wore a simple gray suit that day, unassuming and ordinary, preferring anonymity during his rare ventures into normal life. His daughter Emma, just 8 years old, stood beside him clutching a stuffed rabbit, observing the world with the same keen awareness her father possessed. "Dad," Emma tugged his sleeve, her voice barely audible. "That little boy wants ice cream, but his mom said no." She looks sad. Marcus followed his daughter's gaze. He'd built his fortune on reading people, on understanding unspoken needs and hidden desperation. In Sarah's hunched shoulders and the way she kept recounting her money, he recognized something achingly familiar, the same look his own mother had worn years ago, when they'd lived in a cramped studio apartment and counted quarters for laundry. When Sarah reached the register, the inevitable happened. The total flashed on the screen, $47.83. She had $40 and some change. "I'm so sorry," she told the cashier, her cheeks burning with shame. "I need to put some things back." The cashier, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, nodded sympathetically. Sarah began scanning her items, making impossible choices. The chicken. No, they needed protein. The vegetables. Tommy had to have vitamins. Her hands trembled as she reached for the loaf of bread. "That won't be necessary," a deep voice said from behind her. Sarah turned to find a tall man with graying temples and warm brown eyes standing closer than she'd expected. Before she could respond, he handed his credit card to the cashier. "I've got this," Marcus said simply. "Sir, I can't," Sarah began, mortification flooding her features. "Please," he interrupted gently. "Let me." The people in line had grown quiet, watching this unexpected moment unfold. The cashier processed the payment, and Sarah stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to repay you." Marcus smiled, but he wasn't finished. He turned to his daughter. "Emma, what did that little boy want?" "Ice cream, Daddy. Should we fix that?" Emma's face lit up like sunshine breaking through clouds. Marcus walked to the freezer section with purpose, Emma skipping beside him. They returned with not 1, but 2 containers of ice cream, chocolate and strawberry. "I wasn't sure which flavor he'd prefer," Marcus said, handing them to a stunned Sarah. "So I got both." Tommy's eyes went wide with disbelief, looking from the ice cream to his mother to this stranger who'd just made his wish come true. But Marcus Wellington hadn't become a billionaire by thinking small, and what happened next would ripple through that community for years to come. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Jennifer. Marcus Wellington. I need you to contact every major grocery chain in the metro area. I want to establish a fund, let's call it the No Child Without initiative. Any parent who comes up short at checkout, the difference gets covered. Anonymous. No questions asked. Start with 5 million and we'll scale from there." Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. The cashier's eyes filled with tears. The other customers stood motionless, witnesses to something extraordinary. "Sir," Sarah stammered, "that's too much. You don't have to." "You're right. I don't have to," Marcus said, kneeling down to Tommy's level. "But I want to. You know why, buddy? Because when I was your age, I wanted ice cream too. And my mom couldn't afford it either. A man at our neighborhood store, Mr. Chen, he'd sometimes slip me a popsicle when she wasn't looking. Such a small thing, but I never forgot it. I never forgot feeling like someone saw me, like someone cared. He stood back up, addressing Sarah directly. I was in your shoes once. My mother raised me alone, worked 3 jobs, still came up short. The difference between then and now. I got lucky. I had opportunities. I made money. But that little boy in me who wanted ice cream and watched his mother cry in grocery store lines. He's still here. Marcus reached into his wallet and pulled out a business card. My company is always looking for dedicated people. If you're interested in a job, call this number. We have positions ranging from entry level to management, and we believe in promoting from within. No pressure, but the door's open if you want to walk through it. Sarah clutched the card like a lifeline, unable to form words through her tears. Dad, Emma said softly, can Tommy have my rabbit? So he knows everything's going to be okay. The stuffed animal had been Emma's companion since birth, worn soft from countless hugs. Without hesitation, she offered it to Tommy. Honey, you don't have to do that, Marcus began, but Emma shook her head. I have lots of toys, Daddy. He needs something special. Tommy accepted the rabbit with reverence, holding it close to his chest. Sarah broke down completely then, this stranger's kindness and his daughter's pure generosity overwhelming every defense she'd built. The cashier wiped her own eyes. An elderly woman in line fumbled for tissues. A teenage boy pulled out his phone and captured the moment, posting it with the caption, "This is what humanity looks like." Within hours, the video had gone viral. News outlets picked up the story. Marcus Wellington's initiative sparked a nationwide movement, with other millionaires and billionaires establishing similar funds in their communities. The No Child Without program expanded to cover school supplies, clothing, and medical needs. But for Sarah and Tommy, the real miracle wasn't the viral moment or the charitable fund. 3 days later, Sarah made that phone call. 6 months after that, she was managing an entire department at Wellington Tech, earning enough to not just survive, but truly live. She bought Tommy all the ice cream he wanted, but more importantly, she bought him stability, security, and hope. Marcus and Emma became regular parts of their lives, not as benefactors and recipients, but as genuine friends. Tommy and Emma played together on weekends. Sarah and Marcus discovered shared passions for old movies and terrible puns. A year to the day after their grocery store meeting, Sarah stood in front of a community center Marcus had funded in their neighborhood. She was there to speak at the opening ceremony, to tell her story, to inspire others who stood where she once stood. A wise man once told me that small acts of kindness echo forever, she told the assembled crowd, Marcus and Emma standing proudly in the front row. He was wrong about one thing, though. What he did wasn't small. Not to me. Not to my son. Not to the thousands of families who no longer have to choose between dignity and dinner. She looked directly at Marcus, her eyes shining. He saw us. In a world that often looks away from struggle, he looked directly at it and decided to do something. That's not just kindness. That's courage. That's love in action. Tommy, now 7 and thriving, stood beside his mother holding Emma's hand. The stuffed rabbit sat in a place of honor on his bookshelf at home, a reminder that magic exists in human connection. Marcus Wellington had responded to a child's simple wish for ice cream by changing countless lives. And in doing so, he proved that the truest wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in the moments we choose compassion over indifference, generosity over apathy, and love over everything else.